just wait for another panelist and we'll begin. And here, I am Anaga Nagarajan, your moderator for the evening. Firstly, I welcome our honorable panelists and the participants present here with us today evening at the panel discussion Founders Forum. The topic for the discussion would be Incorporation of Unconventionality in Conglomerates. Before we dive into deep into the discussion, I would like to introduce our honorable panelist members to each one of you present here. We are delighted to have with us Mr. JT McCormick, sir, an esteemed author, public speaker, and the CEO of Scribe Media, a multi-million-dollar publishing company that helps entrepreneurs and experts to publish and market them. Welcome, sir.
Thank you.
We take great pleasure in welcoming our second panelist, Sheetal Ramkumar, ma'am. Ma'am has remarkable wisdom, exceptional leadership skills, and is the founder and CEO of Whitefield. She is a women entrepreneur and has exceptional insights and philosophies that set her and her company apart. Welcome, ma'am. Last but not the least, we have our honored speaker, TEDx speaker, Mr. Nikhil Bothra, sir, the founder of Nuts Venture, which is India's fastest growing speakers bureau and influencer accelerator. We are glad to have him here with us to share his experience on how to chase and catch up with us. Welcome, sir. Thank you, sir. Now we will begin our panel discussion, and I would request my co-host Devanjan to take over and hope to have an amazing session.
Thank you, Anaga. Welcome, everybody. It's an honor to have you all here. And now I'll be beginning with the questions that so many of our friends have gathered here to listen to your answers to. So my first question will be a general question addressed to all of you, and I'd appreciate inputs from each one of you because your inputs are invaluable to us. So firstly, my first question to you all is, what is unconventionality in business? What do you mean by unconventionality? And do all major corporations really need unconventionality in their business culture? Mr. McCormick, I think you're muted.
I'll go first. Unconventionality for me, especially here in the States right now, I would define it as putting people first. Unfortunately, that's become very unconventional where shareholders have been put first, then clients or customers have been put second, and employees and people who are actually executing on the work have been put third. And here in the States for us, and the way we do our culture, and Entrepreneur Magazine named us the number one company culture in America, we put people first. I believe you put people, process, and profits, and it should go in that order. If you have great people, you can build great processes and you can make great profits. And with those great profits that you make, you should give back to the communities that we work in, that we live in. So it's become an unfortunate thing, but putting people first has become an unconventional approach in business. But when it comes down to it, what is this all about? It's about people. So the unconventional way we go about doing business is putting people first.
Well, thank you, sir. That's actually some of the most insightful things that I've ever heard. And I think most of us can also relate to that because, especially guided by this COVID pandemic, putting people first has to be a priority. And it is great to hear that from you, sir. And it's a shame that it has become unconventional today. Mr. Bothra and Ms. Sheetal Ramkumar, I would love your inputs on this issue as well.
I totally agree with what Mr. McCormick just said. It's unfortunate that putting your people first is such an unconventional thing. I also feel that pandemic somewhere forced all of us to put our people first because businesses and therefore maybe become profitable. That's of course the last thing on most of the good business houses. That's the last thing on their mind. To me, I think being empathetic is unconventional. While again, it's about people and it's about the whole human connect. But I felt especially during the pandemic, that as an organization, we became a little more empathetic than we already were. I think we were always a very people-driven organization. But somewhere, COVID actually pushed us to become empathetic in our day-to-day interactions with people, things that we were just taking for granted. Again, it's a shame that something as basic as being empathetic towards people in general became an unconventional thing in the last few decades, and it was just the profits and the whole numbers, and that took over the minds of most of the large conglomerates. But I think slowly it is all coming back, becoming empathetic, or being empathetic is no longer a conventional thing, but rather an unconventional thing. So if you're an empathetic leader, you're talked about because it's not a regular thing to be, which actually should be the first quality of a good leader. So to me, I think yes, being empathetic, running an organization where you put people first and then process and then profit, like you just said, I think I totally agree with that.
Recording in progress.
Being empathetic probably is the most unconventional thing that we see today, when it should be the most conventional thing, actually. And I really applaud your team for selecting this topic because it's, again, so unconventional. Most people don't want to talk about that. Most of the forums that we go to, people would just want to talk about how did we overcome the COVID pandemic? How did we continue to run businesses? Nobody was talking about what was the most unconventional thing that we did in the last 2 years, or what is it that we've so say imbibed as an unconventional practice within the business. So yeah, kudos to your team, for choosing this topic, and I'd love to hear what others have to say.
Mr. Bothra?
Yeah, I absolutely agree with both my co-panelists. Keeping people first, being empathetic towards others is absolutely very important. One more thing which I think which kind of came in, which was something when I started out, one of the things that my grandfathers used to tell me was that businesses are built on trust, right? Which is one of the most important things of the foundations of how you deal with yourself, how empathetic you are with others. That kind of helps you build trust and helps you build a good brand value, which is something which I thought, because the pace of technology and here and there was kind of losing. But because of the pandemic, because everybody was struggling some way or the other, and everybody had to kind of trust others in order to help cross the line. So that trust factor on which businesses are built, I think, is coming back now, which is amazing, because that's how you go forward together, by trusting each other and bringing that feeling back in the businesses.
Thank you very much for your inputs, sir. That basically sums up the entire thing. It has to be a good leader is one who puts trust in the people and puts people first. That itself is an unconventional thing which should not be unconventional. I think that's a huge takeaway for all of our members in the audience here today. Inspired by that, I'd like to ask Mr. McCormick one question. So, what is your interpretation of unconventionality in corporations and businesses, especially in the media? Because media is often treated as a numbers game, the viewer statistics, the number of clicks on your page. How do you change it from a numbers game to a people's game, and how do you do that?
I believe first and foremost, the way you turn it into a people game, if you will, is what audience are you looking to serve? So many people right now are just after how many likes, how many hearts, how many, and they don't care where it comes from. Whereas for us, when we help authors write, publish, and market their books, well, we want to market the books to the correct audience to serve the people who the book was written for. So many authors will come to us and will say, who's your target market? And they'll say, well, everyone can benefit. Everyone may be able to benefit, but there's a specific audience that we need to reach and speak to. And right now, you all know this, in social media, it's here today, gone tomorrow, and it's not even tomorrow. It's like here in this minute, gone the next minute. And there's so much valuable content that's out there that's not serving the people who really need it, because it's just inundated with how many likes can I get? How much love can I get? How many comments can I get? And that's not in service of the people who the content is written for. So again, it always takes me back to the very beginning, is who are the people that we're looking to serve, and let's make sure we serve those individuals.
That's more than a satisfactory answer. In fact, I think that is one of the most precise answers to that question that could be. So adding on to that, now I'd like to direct a question to Ms. Sheetal Ramkumar. So another aspect of unconventionality, putting the people part aside, is that to help people, there also has to be a certain amount of innovation, innovative thinking, something that goes against the norms. So how would you encourage that, or like to see it implemented in this new era of startups, where everyone wants to get in and build a startup with something innovative? So how do you actually ensure that what they're doing is unconventional and not something in the name of unconventionality?
To be very honest, when we overuse this word, being unconventional and being, doing things that nobody has done. If you ask me honestly, we are living in times where I think everybody has done everything. There is no novelty, so to say, in ideas or implementation. I think where you actually make a difference is the execution. If you ask me, is my startup idea a novel idea? No. There are people who have done that, probably doing much better than what we are doing, and maybe there are people who will do much better than what we are doing. For me, as the founder of the organization, what I focus on is how are we bettering our processes and making it more people-centric and more customer-centric. And most of all, the people who are serving the customers, how do I make things easy for them? To me, innovation is making everybody's life easy. To me, innovation is not just implementing some technology, and still making people sit for probably 12 hours a day, or making them work over the weekends, and you still have customers who are complaining. To me, innovation is how am I making things easy? How am I making my processes more easy to implement, more agile, more flexible also, because you have to keep changing with times. You have to be nimble-footed. Today I could be doing something, and tomorrow it may not be relevant. So how do I also stay relevant? So to me, that is innovation. Staying relevant, staying nimble-footed, staying agile, staying ahead of competition, of course, because at the end of the day, in a business like ours, which is a services business, what really matters at the end of the day is the customer sat. There is nothing that my competitors can't copy. If it's about pricing, somebody else will offer a better price. If it's about technology, somebody will adopt a better technology. I think it's at the end of the day, the customer experience at every transaction that they do with the people in my company is to me innovation. Is it a very small billing query? How fast was it resolved? Did we learn anything out of it? Did we implement that as a part of our process improvement? Did we make sure that we were not committing the same mistakes again and again? So to me, there are no specific answers, or there are no straight answers to this. But if you ask me honestly, there is nothing that is novel. It's just the way you approach your customers or your business or your people. That is where you can make a difference. There is no idea. There is no sort of say an as-is process, which is unconventional. Everything is still traditional. We still want a people connect. We still want someone to solve our problems. We still want someone to be available, maybe over the weekends because the problem is so critical. So somewhere that human connect is going to stay. How do you make sure that despite all the technology and despite all the noise that you have, you still have your customers and your people and your relevant stakeholders who you put ahead of everything else? So as an organization, we are constantly working on innovating our processes so that it becomes easier for people who are handling it. Also, I feel, when you're a process driven company, and especially in a process intensive and manpower intensive business like ours, there's huge dependency on people. So for us, it's very important that at every stage there is a complete trust, there's a complete sort of say collaboration between people, so that it's like a relay race. If one was to fall, the entire process would fall. So to keep that agility on, to keep that continuity on, it's very important for us at every step to be innovative. So for me, I could be innovating every single day. I could be doing things innovatively every single day, and then implementing them as a large part of the process. But to me, innovation is something that you're doing every day, just making life easier, just making sure that there is absolute comfort in what you're doing, and there's comfort to the customer. And overall, it's like, of course, it's a very idealistic situation to imagine, but that's what you kind of aim for at the end of the day. Because if that comfort is there, the business will take care of itself.
I think that brings me to another question, the point that you just raised. So you said that time, okay, doing something innovative every day, that is how you view innovation, right? So that brings me to my next question. If your business decided to specifically incorporate certain new ideas, say, for example, in your business, there's a certain technical thing that requires some amount of innovation. So how much time would you give it to implement? Like, would you try to do it immediately to beat your other customers in that consumer service race, or would you maybe try and test it and then make it reliable before taking it out to the public?
So there are two answers to this. If it's a tactical solution, maybe 2 weeks. If it's something that we are doing at a strategic level, at a process level, maybe 60 days. It depends on what are we trying to solve. What are we trying to innovate. We have implemented certain ideas in just 2 weeks, and it has taken. There are some things that we have been trying to do for probably over 60 days, and we are still not happy with the outcome. So you before you actually launch it, and before you say that, okay, this is the new thing that I'm going to launch, I would probably test it to make sure that when I'm going out and offering it to my customers, it's the right product, it's the right service, and there are no sort of say, it doesn't backfire at any point in time. So it all depends. There could be small solutions that might just take 2 weeks. At the end of the day, it's the people who are implementing it, right? So to get them on board and tell them, there are of course situations where we have to quickly implement something. It could be technology, and it's something that people need to learn. So we make sure that learning time is given to people. There's no rush, because at the end of the day, it's the people who are running everything. So it could be 2 weeks, it could be 2 months as well. But we have managed to do a lot of things, I believe, in just a fortnight or probably 3 weeks time. So I always take 3 weeks as the time for us to test it, make sure there are no loopholes, and then just sort of say implement it or launch it.
Okay, so that is a great answer. I'd like to extend that question in the sense that one key takeaway that we got is customer satisfaction. One of one unconventional tactic is in fact to embrace traditionality of the customer experience. So Mr. Bothra and Mr. McCormick, could you also give your inputs on that and any?
Yeah, absolutely. I think customer satisfaction is of utmost importance. We all know when we are in any business, we're selling something to someone, and unless the person is satisfied with what they're getting, they're not going to come back to you. And that's the whole point of selling them the first time, so that they come back and you have a repeat customer, and they spread good words about your company, and that's how you initially grow through word of mouth. For us in the line of business that we are in, feedbacks is super, super important. Following up is very important. I think one of the most important traits that I've probably learned in the last few years is the power of following up. Even when we are reaching out to new people for new businesses or new potential customers, many a time companies fall in this loop of using, a set statement piece the way they reach out, and after that there is no interaction with them again. What we do personally is that we always try to customize, our statements whenever we are reaching out to a new potential customer, so that they feel that we are reaching out to them specifically, and it is just not a marketing or sales gimmick where we're reaching out to thousands of people at the same time. So constantly asking them also, the way we reached out. So whenever we get on calls with customers, there are certain key questions that we have in place that we always need to ask them so that we get the right information from them. And we always try to listen more than ask questions the first time. Whenever you want to sell something, it's very important for you to understand what their requirements are, what exactly do they want, how do they want the entire thing to work out. And then it's okay if you take a couple of days to get back to them. But when you're coming back to them, come back with a right mindset wherein you're solving all their pain points. That's how they understand, that you're there, you'll be taking care of them. And one more important thing I feel is that whenever you say that you're going to come back to the person at a particular day, always try to maintain that date, right? Because a lot of times what happens, we say that, okay, I'm going to get back to you by Wednesday or Friday. And sometimes those Wednesdays, Fridays turns into Mondays and Thursdays, which according to me leaves a very, very negative impact on the mind of the customer. Because if you can't say it to your word, they won't believe you more than that.
Thank you for your inputs, Mr. Nikhil. Mr. McCormick, would you like to jump in and say a few words about this issue?
As far as so again, we're in publishing, so we're very intentional with our words, and take a second to look at the words that we're using. Customer satisfaction, employee satisfaction. You'll hear so many companies say employee satisfaction is number one, customer satisfaction is number one. Let's break down that word. We will not use the word satisfaction, and I'll give you an example why. If the bar is satisfactory, if you look up that word, we don't want to be satisfactory. If my wife goes to dinner with some of her friends and someone says, "Hey, how's your husband?" and she says satisfactory, I'm going to be a little upset. And so we want our customers, our authors, the people we work with, we want people to be fulfilled. So we're looking for employee fulfillment. We're looking for customer fulfillment. We don't want anyone to be satisfactory. And what's interesting is you hear so many companies, customer satisfaction is our number one goal. That's a low bar. We're looking for you to be fulfilled. We want you to walk away from the experience fulfilled, that even if you don't have another book in you to write, that the experience was so fulfilling, so rewarding, so phenomenal that you just want to go back to the experience again.
That's a great point. It shouldn't just be satisfactory. It should be well and above beyond that. That is not truly unconventional thinking. I'm fascinated by this discussion that we're having. Thank you, panelists. You've made this a really, really cool conversation. Now I will ask another general question. Now, one thing is, now this is specifically targeted to big corporations, the major companies. Now, these companies, like Mr. McCormick mentioned, that's their job, right? They're okay with satisfaction and they're not trying to go beyond that, because the traditional thinking of, okay, the customers are satisfied, that retains our market base. So we do not actually need to put in efforts to make them happy. We just need to make them satisfied. How can we change that thinking in corporations? How can we bring in the unconventionality of people first? People not just satisfied, but being happy. How do we get that through to the major corporations, the big bucks, who always think that traditional tried methods are making them money? How do you convey that message to them?
Yeah, in some ways, some traditional processes, thought processes are relevant to date. There are organizations that are probably 100 years old, and they've cracked the formula of keeping the customers happy. I'm not using the word satisfied. Let's take an example of a product company like a Nestle, maybe. They've understood, they've cracked the code. So they've stayed ahead of competition. They've stayed relevant in the business. They've embraced the change. I think most important for some of the large organizations that continue to think they're invincible. There is nobody that is going to challenge them. Case in point could be a Nokia, or a BlackBerry. And these are some of the organizations that at one point in time were unconventional, were very different. They were path breakers. And over a period of time, they've just sort of say vanished, or they've kind of just diluted that whole importance that they gained, when they were the market leaders. What could have gone wrong? It's I think two thinking. One is some of the organizations that would continue to think the product is invincible. There is no match to my product, and then you don't stay relevant. You don't keep a track of what's going on. What is it the customer demanding? And with such a changing market, especially in the last decade and a half, where there is instant gratification that the millennial generation wants. There are people who probably don't have the patience to wait, to get the result, for example, or to get that experience. When organizations don't embrace that and don't realize that there is somebody else who's probably working on that thought of the customer, is they're going to just get ahead of them. There's somebody who realized that cameras needed a phone. So, you just got a camera phone. There's somebody who realized that, I need maybe a different sort of say chat application. And then BlackBerry Messenger was it just vanished, overnight. So I think organizations that will shy away from embracing technology, will shy away from embracing change, and the changing behavior of the customer or the changing behavior of the market, I think over time they will probably just disappear or just become irrelevant over a period of time. So most important for large organization is to break that traditional thought process. You cannot get different results by doing the same things. You want a different result, you'll have to do something differently, right? If you continue to do the same thing over and over again, it's going to outlive its relevance. It's going to become jaded, and the market is asking for something fresher, something better, something bigger. How do you cater to that demand? And there's somebody who will be probably catering to that demand, or building a product or a service that will cater to that demand. So organizations, some of the large organizations, especially in India, I can tell you some of the large organizations, they continue to operate like a very mediocre organization, or unfortunately they're called government organizations because there is no change, there's no innovation. They believe, they stick with their traditional ideas. They don't want to break free from those traditional thoughts, the chains of their own making. So that is where I feel some of the large organizations are actually in a difficult position or a dangerous position if they don't really change that and break away from the traditional thought process and embrace and understand what the market is asking for or the customer is asking for, and then tweak their processes, make those changes very quickly. So you have to be also very quick, nimble-footed, agile to cater to that requirement, And embracing change and technology both is something that some of the large organizations definitely need to do.
So that's a brilliant point, embracing change. Now, that would in fact bring me to another question, which I would then extend with this question to my other panelists. And that question is this. As someone who aspires to lead a company, as an aspiring entrepreneur, what practices should be adopted to avoid making dangerous mistakes of not embracing the change? Like Kodak did. They laughed off digital photography. And today, Kodak is non-existent compared to where they were, say, 30 years ago. So, as an aspiring entrepreneur, how do you filter out temporary trends to these game-changing innovations so that you can recognize them and change with time? First, Mr. McCormick, followed by Mr. Bothra, please.
I would say the way, as an aspiring entrepreneur, that it may not need to be top of mind just starting out. So you referenced a massive conglomerate in Kodak. Well, they needed to have that top of mind. Starting out with companies as a startup, you need to be very agile, very lean, and very focused on the mission that you have and what you're trying to drive in your company. Focusing on something, we can use Blockbuster and Netflix here in the States. Blockbuster was the market leader. Netflix came along. At that level, you have to embrace change. I love what she referenced about Nokia and BlackBerry. You have to be conscious of where is the marketplace going? What are people wanting? But in my opinion, as a startup founder, you have to be laser focused on what is it that you're bringing to the market. And she nailed it when she said this. Nothing's actually new. If you look at our industry, a book is a book is a book. The Bible is one of the most printed books of all time. If the Bible is in paper form, if it's on cassette, CD, audiobook, and if a book one day AI has books on hologram, okay, a book is a book is a book. Nothing is really new. So as a startup founder, you have to be laser focused on what you're bringing to the marketplace. I personally reserve the who needs to embrace massive change to the big corporations who have that massive implementation, the Nokias, the Blackberries, the Netflix and Blockbusters. They have to be very conscious of where is the marketplace going, how do we pivot, or you'll end up like a Peloton, a GoPro. GoPro's a one-trick wonder. They do a camera. What else do you have? That's it. And if you look at it, an iPhone at this point has a better camera than a GoPro. So you have to embrace where is the marketplace going.
Absolutely. Mr. Bothra, your comments on this?
Absolutely. I think, honestly, everything comes down to mindset. So when you're an aspiring entrepreneur and you're just starting out, nobody knows your name, nobody knows the company's name. So you're always ready to try everything which is possible, right? So you always want to be better than your competitor at every step. Whatever you're doing, you want to just be better than what your competitor is providing or offering. So you're always in that hustle wherein, okay, you want to be the best. But once you reach a certain level, once your organization has a certain kind of name, there's a lot of times we tend to become complacent, we tend to become comfortable. And that's where I think the problem lies, because then you feel, okay, people have already bought, people are buying my stuff, people are going to keep buying my stuff, right? That's how we feel after a certain point of time, and we don't pay attention to what our competitors are doing or what is the up and coming trends of the industry. So having that same mindset that you had when you were starting out and keeping that mindset even when you have reached a certain level or created a certain name for your organization is very important. So you always need to feel that someone is coming to get you, right? So in business, I think you always need to be on your toes like that, and that's the one advantage that startups have over these corporations, because the corporate structure is so huge that to implement any single idea, it can take months. Wherein in a startup, the teams are so lean that you can act on your ideas much faster. That is why I think it's very important for entrepreneurs and startup founders to keep on having conversations also with people from different industries and different fields all the time. So that you understand, okay, this is something new which someone else is trying in some other industry as well, which is something that I can probably use in mine. So always be more aware is probably the thing.
Thank you so much, Mr. Bothra. I think we've taken away a lot of crucial points from that. It's you can embrace change, but at the same time, if you're an aspiring startup, you have to be laser focused in what you're trying to do, as Mr. McCormick rightly pointed out. Simply brilliant. So now I would like to direct one question, another general question to all of you. So now I will stick to I asked you a question about startups, aspiring entrepreneurs. Now there are some companies, some corporations, because they hold this significant standing in the business landscape around the world, in different localities, etc. So to these huge corporations, as Mr. Nikhil rightly said, adopting changes takes time because they have to go down from a top-down approach. So why would they even consider it opposed to their pre-established traditional rules of business? Like, it's simply easier for them to buy out their competition rather than actively engage in that competition.
Easier said than done. I don't think we are living in a world where large corporation can just trample over, their competition just like that. Like all of us agree here, the market is changing. There was no competition to probably a Nestle, for example, in the baby food business, but then there are so many others who are out there in the market and giving them a tough competition. I think for large corporation, it's just that competition that comes from outside, and you're threatened, your position is threatened, is when probably they wake up and realize that it's time to make some changes. And a lot of organizations still struggle, till probably they reach a point where they realize that this is no longer a sustainable business. Probably we need to just stop this business. Look at Tata Teleservices. They entered in the same market. Bharti Airtel was already a big player, or Vodafone was already a big player. What went wrong for them is the fact that you're not ready to embrace change. You don't want to look at competition. You're not aware of what's happening around you. You feel that there is a brand name, there's a Tata behind my name, so whatever I get in the market, I'm going to be able to sell it, which is not true. So many of their businesses have failed. They've not done well. Nano is a good example. The telecom business of Tata's is a good example. So not necessarily that large corporations can just trample over the competition or look at, suffocate the smaller players in the market. That's no longer true, because the power is with the customer. The power does not lie with the large corporations. I would definitely say from the rooftop all the time, the power is with the customer, the buyer. No amount of legacy names and no amount of sort of trusted names are going to change the customer's mind if they've liked a certain product of a competition or a smaller player in the market. And that's how some smaller companies have become large, and they will continue to become large. So the power does not lie with the corporations any longer. There are no 5 or 6 businesses that are ruling the world. There are organizations that would just quietly enter the market, capture the market, and when probably those large corporations are sleeping in their glory, thinking about all the good old days and all the glory they had, it is somebody who will just enter the market, sweep the customer off their feet, and just become a market leader. So the whole market leader thing is also a very debatable topic, if you ask me. There's no market leader. Today there's one company, tomorrow the shares would tank because of some issue, and there's somebody else who would just get ahead of the competition. So at the end of the day, we have to realize where the power lies. The power center is the customer and not the large corporations. So they will have to change, else they will perish. Over a period of time, they'll just sink. There's no way you can stay in the business if the customer does not want you.
That is also a very, very valid point. Mr. Bothra, Mr. McCormick, your inputs.
Yeah, what the point Sheetal put across is absolutely right, that the power is in the hands of the customer. And another thing that I'd just like to add on it, that the ways you build trust with customers have also changed now. Earlier, 10, 50 years down the line, you had to be in the business for X number of years to have that brand power, brand pull, or brand trust, brand loyalty with the customers. But nowadays, there are so many different methods. For example, you have influencers, right? Now you use those influencers to build trust among your potential customers, which was a possibility which was not there 50 years down the line. That is why all of these bigger companies, all of these bigger brand names had that kind of monopoly for X number of years in the market for trust and brand loyalty. But now you have these influencers which help you gain that trust much, much faster. So that is why it's not that easy for corporations to come in and scoop up smaller players anymore, because you have that reach that you didn't have earlier.
True. And I think
the whole word loyalty is I feel disillusioned when I hear the word loyalty, because the loyalties are changing by the minute, especially in consumers' mind, and because like we said, the influencers, there's somebody who will influence your buying process or your buying capacity, and next minute you could be buying a competition product. So the whole word loyalty again is so debatable, and the organizations who can retain those loyal customers, hats off to them. They must be doing something different to be able to retain the loyal customers and keep that loyalty on.
Mr. McCormick, you seem like you wanted to give some inputs regarding that.
I also feel that you you have to provide options. And so I'll give you an example here. It wasn't innovative at all, but when it happened, people thought it was genius. So here in the States, you have Keurig Dr. Pepper. And what they went about doing is you have Pepsi, who offered sodas and juices, cold beverages, energy drinks. You had Coca-Cola that offered soda, juices, beverages, energy drinks. Keurig Dr. Pepper said, wait a minute, we don't want to just own the cold market, sodas, beverages, and juices. We want to own both. So then they provided coffee and cold, and so they put them both together. Not innovative at all, but was very common sense of, wait, let's just own the whole beverage market and not just a slice of the market. So I feel that options are very important as well for your brand of how many things can we offer our customers, our the people who are working with us. And you heard me reference GoPro earlier. How often do we need to buy a new camera? We don't need to buy, so there are very limited options. And even when we started off 7 years ago, we were a one-trick wonder. We offered a book, but then we realized, okay, we need to offer a book. We need to offer the audiobook. We need to offer marketing. We need to offer a podcast, social media. So we had to open up our options to where the customers and the clients want to stay with us for years to come. And then my last one is that even if you look at Disney, look at all the many facets and options they have from Disney Parks to Disney Plus to ABC, ESPN. And then they realize, okay, we gotta go bigger than this. Pixar, Marvel, Star Wars. So they realize, okay, we've got to have options to keep the client with us, to keep the customers with us. So I believe options are huge in this day and age, because one trick is not going to keep a customer with you that long.
True. Absolutely. I think that also reaffirms Ms. Sheetal's points that a company simply offering a service, it's hard to retain a customer whose loyalties change every minute. So you need to diversify your portfolio of services with every minute, with every customer that you gain. So I think that's a very good point that we've all agreed upon. So now I'd like to ask a specific question to Mr. Nikhil Bothra. So in your speeches, in your book, you have mentioned so often that failure and learning from it is often a huge step to success. You should learn to fail before you learn how to succeed. So how should one treat failures along the way of trying something new and unconventional?
I don't think there is any particular way to treat failures, because obviously we've all heard that everyone fails in life and everybody needs to pick up the right things from that experience and take it on with you forward. But I just feel that a lot of times what happens with failure is that there's a lot of cloud of confusion and underconfidence and just not believing in yourself, right? That's something that always failures lead to. And I think it is important to feel that for a certain amount of time, but it is also very important to come out of it very quickly. Because if you feel that you can't achieve something and you failed on that and you feel that you can't get out of it, and that's just a cycle which is going to repeat. So failures, I think my biggest learning from failures is the way it treats your confidence, right? It completely hollows you out and it makes you lose belief in yourself. And which is the one thing which I don't want to lose ever in my life personally. I've always want to have that belief and I always want to have that confidence in myself that whatever I'm doing, one way or the other, we're going to reach wherever we want to reach. So it's very important for us to take a step back after every failure and just evaluate ourselves and what went wrong, what went right, and then come back stronger with more confidence in your own abilities. Right? So with every failure, what it does is that it pushes you much back, but it's just like waves in the water, right? When the waves are calling you in, they call you in very hard, but when it's pushing you out, you have to come back stronger and break all the sandcastles that are all the sand beach. So yeah, just not lose confidence and belief in yourself.
I think that's inspiring to not just me or this panel, but to everyone who listens to this. It's not the failures that make you, the learnings from them, and your confidence, the building up of your confidence that ultimately helps. I would like to extend this to to the other panelists as well. What were some failures that you encountered and that taught you to be stronger and got you to the successful position that you are in today?
I think for us, the initial few years were very difficult because, in India, one had never heard of a professionally managed language services company. So the first large obstacle for us was how do we shift the mindset, of large customers who never understood that India also could be a leading, language service provider, because we are sitting right in the hub of the language talent. For us, the first 2 years were very, very challenging because you're trying to change the mindset. It's not just it's not a product that I can just go to someone and show the features and say this is better than the other product that you're using. It's service. How do you actually explain to the customer that you're much better, you are probably much cost effective, you're probably your response time is much better. There's so many things, an experience for the service to the customer. The initial 2 years, we lost a lot of major deals. We didn't know where to look. We didn't know how to do the right kind of pricing, because the only reference point for us was some of the companies that are well established that are in the US and some parts of Europe. We didn't really have any Indian company to look up to and say, okay, let me just copy what they're doing and maybe do it a little better and then just get there. So some of those failures actually taught us that we need to probably be a little more deeper into what we are doing and get the understanding of the customer's requirement a little better, because you can't operate on a surface level. Somewhere when you're trying to become a market leader, or you're aiming to become one of the Asia's largest so the leading language services company, it's not a small ambition to have, but to get there is a lot of things that you'll have to do. So you can't operate on a surface level. We made some of those mistakes, but I think we learned so much from those mistakes. And I always say that you can only learn from failures. The only thing that you can learn from success is how to stay humble. That's all. There's nothing that success can teach you. But failures, at every step we realize, okay, this is a mistake that we made. We need to correct that and make sure that we don't repeat the same mistake. Maybe make a newer mistake, but not repeat the same mistakes. So first 2 years, a lot of things where we failed, and we got up and we made sure that those changes were implemented. We made sure that we didn't implement those wrong practices. We made sure that we were much more prepared. And from there, I think my mantra has been, if you're failing to prepare, you're preparing to fail. So from there onwards, I think.
Thank you, ma'am. That's truly inspiring. A note to the audience that if you have any questions to ask from this esteemed list of panelists, please put your questions down in the chat box. We'll have a look at it later. And now to Mr. McCormick. Yes, what are some of your experiences that you would like to share?
So Mr. Bothra is going to be mad at me, and he's probably going to come over here to the States and look for me when I say this. But I agree with him wholeheartedly on something he's repeatedly said. It does start with mindset. I 100% agree with him. My mindset is everything. Confidence is free. It does not cost. You don't build confidence. When you wake up in the morning, you can choose to be confident or you can choose to be timid and meek. So I agree with him. Mindset is everything. Where he's going to come looking for me is, I actually will not use the word failure. I believe you only fail if you stop trying. We all make mistakes in life and in business, but we only fail if we stop trying. And I took that from Thomas Edison. When they asked him, how did it feel to fail, thousands of times in discovering electricity, that he said, did I fail 1,000 times, or did I find 1,000 ways that didn't work? And for me, what that said was, oh, okay, so I only fail if I stop trying. So the goal is, you will make mistakes. Do not make the same mistakes twice. Learn from those mistakes. Do not repeat those mistakes. But for me, I live on, you only fail if you stop trying. So I understand even here in the States, the phrase has become really popular. Fail fast, fail fast. I don't want to fail fast. I never went to university, and so for me, I want to learn faster. So I don't want to fail fast. I want to learn faster. And so I only believe you fail if you stop trying. If your goal is to lose 20 pounds by April 15th, and on April 15th you've only lost 15 pounds, well, you only fail if you stop trying. If you have to go to May 1st to lose that additional 5 pounds, well, you only fail if you stop trying. So I agree with the mindset, but for me, I just will not use the word fail.
Thank you, Mr. McCormick. I think that's very insightful again from you. That it's not just failure or learning how to fail; it is just not to repeat the same mistakes again. And I think that basically tells us what we want to know about unconventionality. That there should be no fear of failing while trying out something unconventional. The goal should not be to not fail, but to fail but not repeat it again. And I really thank all of you panelists for your wonderful and so insightful answers. I mean, I came up here and I'm still listening to you. I'm in a mode of listening to what you all have to say. It was truly fascinating. We will now be opening the floor for questions. The audience, if they want, can type some queries in the chat box itself. We'll have a look at them.
Mr. Bothra, real fast. I'm in Austin, Texas, so don't see me.
Absolutely not. After that answer, I'm just booking my tickets tonight.
Are there any more questions? It seems not. I think you all have completely answered everything that there was to say, and I'm just grateful. Frankly, I'm just grateful to be here amongst you, esteemed panelists. You've completely unlocked this topic of unconventionality, and it put it so simply in front of us to understand. I think all of us have had a great learning today. With this, we come to the end of this Founders Forum. And I'm sure it has been a learning experience, not just for me, but for everybody, and has armored us with enough knowledge to go ahead and try our hands at unconventionality without the fear of failing. On behalf of the Entrepreneurship Development Cell and IT Durgapur, I would like to thank our panelists for taking out so much time from their so extremely busy schedules. You're successful men. You have such busy schedules, and you still took out time to be a part of ESUMMIT 2022. So I'm really grateful to you for that. Thank you to the participants as well as for being an excellent audience. We will be seeing you soon in the e-talks that come up after this. Have an excellent evening.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure to be a part of this. Thank you so much, Team NIT Durgapur. Thank you, co-panelists.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, everyone. It was great hearing from Mr. McCormick and Ms. Sheetal as well.
Thank you so much.
Everybody for organizing such a great event. And I'm coming to Texas tomorrow morning. Are you coming to pick me up?
I will not fail to pick you up. you all take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye. See you soon.
Thank you very much.